been a wild ride this year, but we're still here. We're open, we're busy, we're excited to serve you.
Put you down about 6 o'clock for tomorrow morning.
Whether you work here, live here, or you're just passing through, discover Iroquois County. Can't wait to see you. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the second installment of our Discover Iroquois County webinar series through the Iroquois County Chamber of Commerce. My name is Katie Canada and I am here to present for UpliftedCare in Bourbonnais. I am their Director of Community Relations and Development, but I also serve on the Board of Directors for the Iroquois County Chamber of Commerce as their Secretary. First of all, I would like to just thank everyone. We just had our big Super Saturday event in Gilman over the weekend, and it was a great turnout. So definitely thank you to the committee and everyone that made that the event that it was. It was a really great time. The weather was beautiful. So thank you everyone who came out and enjoyed the time with us. So I am going to be presenting today on the grief support services that are offered through UpliftedCare and kind of how grief support services work in a workplace. So how you would utilize them with your business and your employees. So we'll go ahead and get started. So first of all, I think it needs to be talked about a little bit. UpliftedCare just went through a really big change last year. In August of 2020, we did a complete organizational rebrand from Hospice of Kankakee Valley to UpliftedCare. So Hospice of Kankakee Valley was founded in 1982. And with a lot of hospice organizations, when they were founded, they were very small organizations. Our particular organization was founded in a church basement. The need arose for care. A young mother received a terminal diagnosis, and she made the decision that she wanted to stay in her own home with her children and asked the parishioners in her church to kind of come together and help provide that care. So out of that need, Hospice of Kankakee Valley was born. And one of the things that we see a lot in small hospice organizations, community-founded hospice organizations, they named themselves what they did and where they did it. So in 1982, the obvious name for Hospice of Kankakee Valley was Hospice in Kankakee Valley. Since then, however, we have grown substantially. So to kind of go into the background of a hospice program, so the Medicare requirements for hospice programs include a medical director, nurses, CNAs, social workers, chaplains, volunteers, and a bereavement program. So we obviously have all of those. But we also offer a lot of additional services that traditional hospice programs may not offer. So we have a transitions program, which is a volunteer-based program that offers light caregiver support, companionship, errands, things like that for our patients. We have a full palliative program that is run by our staff of nurse practitioners. And palliative is different from hospice in that it provides that extra support for those living with a terminal illness, but in a different way. Then we also offer our hospice program, which includes all of those things that I previously talked about, the medical director, nurses, CNAs, chaplains, social worker, bereavement volunteers. We also have a very large veteran program through UpliftedCare to serve the unique needs that veterans face at the end of life. In addition to that, we have our complementary therapies. So we have a board-certified music therapist on staff, and then we also have a licensed massage therapist. And she is much different than that of like a regular spa massage. She is certified in the end-of-life massage to help provide comfort, relaxation, ease to anxiety, and things like that. And then finally, we have our community grief support program. So one of the common misconceptions about hospice care or about our services is that our grief support program was only available for the families of patients that were on service with us. We took that a step further long ago and offered that service to anyone in the community, no matter how their loved one had passed away. So one of the struggles that we had with that is people didn't realize that that was something that we offered. They thought the only way that you could receive grief support services is if your loved one were to have passed away on our hospice care. So that kind of started our quest for how do we make this more readily available for the community, and how do we let people know that we're here for them no matter what the situation may be. So out of that, our idea for our community grief center was born. And all of these things that have changed since 1982 really led us to the decision that we have outgrown the name Hospice of Kankakee Valley. Serving 6 counties now, we serve Iroquois, Ford, Livingston, Grundy, Will, and Kankakee County. So that, in addition to the growth of all of our services and the introduction of our community grief center, really led us to the decision that we needed to do something different. So we started on the quest to rebrand our organization. And this was something that was really scary and really, there was a lot of uncertainty, especially doing it during a pandemic. Are we going to be able to get the word out there that we are still the same organization at heart, but we just need something to more adequately reflect all of the services that we provide? So now, kind of having Uplifted Care under our belt for about a year, I feel like it has been something that has been very transformational for our organization. We have heard a lot of different stories from families. We love the fact that your name means what you do for your patients, and we feel so confident in the uplifting care that you provided us in a time that we needed it the most. So very, very happy with the way that we were able to kind of transform that name into something new, into something very positive, without losing the love, the care, and the compassion that we've had for almost 40 years. So that kind of led us again to the question, coming back to grief support, how can we do more? We started asking, how can we be a more visual representation for the community, for those that are needing our services whose loved ones may not have been on hospice, that have passed away in those situations like an accident or a sudden medical emergency or even suicide or murder or things like that? How could we really reach the people in the community that could really use our services but didn't know that we were there? So we started kind of looking, what is a way that we can get those resources out to them and let them know? And that led us to the discovery phase about a community grief center. We started researching and looking what other places were like this in the state, in the country. We are really the only facility in the state of Illinois that provides the program that we do. So a community grief center, by definition, is just a physical place where anyone in the community can receive grief support completely free of charge, even if their loved one did not receive care from our palliative or hospice programs. So that is kind of what led us to looking into what this place was going to be. And as you can see, that is the picture of our finished building. The location is in Bourbonnais, and it is on the corner of 102 and Career Center Road. So I think to fully understand the need for something like this, I feel like we have to start all the way at the beginning and kind of understand what grief really is. So If you've been following our webinar series, last month we worked with Phil, our dedicated videographer that's been helping us with this webinar series, and he told the power of video how to use video in your business, how to use video to tell your story. And one of the very first projects that we worked on with Phil was our grief series. So we did, to unveil the announcement that we were building this place in the community, we started this kind of teaser video series, and it started with what is grief. So I'd like to share that with you now, just to give kind of a representation of what grief looks like to people. What is grief? To understand grief, you need to understand love. To know that intense feeling of affection and connection for something or someone. And having that taken away from you, that is grief. When someone you love dies, there is this overwhelming feeling of nothingness. You feel empty inside. A fog settles. Cognitively, you begin to feel so disorganized, scattered and confused. Making decisions becomes hard. Your memory and recall are less sharp. You search for that connection you had with your loved one. It's not there.
Brain fog refers to that mental cloudiness that occurs. The death, your mind keeps going over to all that. You get wrapped up in that and you tend to forget appointments, paying bills. This is a very normal grief reaction.
The pain of the loss is so intense that you find yourself ruminating over the death story over and over and over again, trying to figure out what just happened. Then all of these emotions start coming at you. Anger, blame, guilt, loneliness, sadness, fear. They're coming at you in all different directions. They become so intense, it's hard to distinguish one emotion from the next.
A lot of the emotions that encompass grief have to do with love and loss. Music can be very painful for people in grief. When we lose someone, we tend to have memories with that person that are also based in music, whether it's our wedding song or a song that our children really listen to all the time until we were annoyed. And so when that person passes and we hear that song again, it can be painful. But when you're ready for it, it can be this really fond memory that you've shared with that person.
Sometimes, all you can do is cry.
The tears happen. It's a person's way of having a shower from inside out. Holding them back will make you sick.
Your world feels like it's been flipped upside down. Then out of the blue is a grief burst that is an intense mix of emotions that comes out of nowhere.
Grief bursts are a common phenomenon. Suddenly, one of their 5 senses is triggered. A person might smell someone's cologne or smell that person's favorite food, and suddenly the eyes tear up.
Then there are the physical signs of grief. Your fatigue, aches and pains, tightness in your chest, shortness of breath, headaches, changes in sleep and eating. Your feelings of sadness can leave you feeling isolated and alone, make you feel disconnected from everything. You feel as though people are ignoring you, or you isolate yourself because you don't want to have to talk to people. But in the same sense, you long to be with others, especially with those who understand what you're going through.
You just want somebody to say, I can relate at the hardest point of your life. And there was really nowhere to turn. People are suffering whether they know it or not.
This is a process that happens again and again and again, layer after layer of pain. Realizing there are no stages, no right way to grieve. There are no timelines. It is a journey to accept that your loved one's physical self is no longer with you, but their memories and their love is still embedded deep in your heart. Although you still feel so torn apart inside.
It changes our values. It changes the meaning of life for us. things that we held dear are no longer meaningful to us.
It's important for you to know you will get through this, but you will not be the same person. You will see things differently and start realizing what things are really important to you. Your values might change, but it's those values you need to embrace and weave them into your grief experience. This is a process, and it happens again and again and again. My painting of grief would look completely different from someone else's painting of grief. Grief is a unique, personal experience based on your love. So as you can see, that's kind of a really raw, messy description of what grief feels like. Grief, by definition, is the normal, natural response to loss. And it's one of those things, it's a completely shared human experience. So keeping all of that in mind, we really took all of those things into consideration when building our community grief center as a place for people to come and share that human experience of grief. So some of the things that we offer at the Community Grief Center are individual grief counseling, family grief counseling, grief support groups, peer grief support, family grief camp, on-site grief counseling, and our educational grief seminars. So I'm going to kind of go through and break down those individually and talk about what specifically each of those look like. So our individual counseling it's a counseling appointment. It's an appointment with a specially trained grief counselor. They can either be held in person, by phone, or virtually, and then an individualized plan of care is developed based on the client's specific needs. Our family counseling are the same kind of thing, but they're sessions, again, with a specially trained grief counselor. And the families can either meet together or separately based on everyone's needs. And then coping tools and skills will be shared to help children and families grieve a loss. Some of the things that we encounter a lot are parents that are struggling with how to address a grief need with their child, or they're trying to handle their own grief and also help their grieving children. So the family counseling really helps with that. Our grief support groups. So we have a couple different ways of doing grief support groups, some of which are open. So we have like a coffee hour for men and a ladies' talk and tea. These groups are held on specific days and times, but they're open for people to join at any time, and they don't really follow any specific curriculum for their group. And then there are closed groups. So these groups definitely require registration, and they're held for a specific amount of time. Generally, those are 6 to 8 weeks. And we offer them at different times during the day. So we could have them in the morning, we could have them in the evening, whatever works best for, the working community and whatnot. They follow a specific topic or curriculum, and they help promote the camaraderie among attendees. So you're building relationships with the people that you're in the group with. And then attendees are encouraged to attend all of the sessions, and we don't accept late registrations for those. Then there's our peer support groups. So our peer support groups are facilitated by volunteers and other previous grief support clients. They offer an open program that allows for group members to attend sessions as they're able with, again, no set curriculum. And then the grief support clients are always encouraged to take advantage of the continued healing that things like the peer support group and other volunteer opportunities provide once they've participated in several of those program offerings. Then our family grief camp. So every year we host our Good Grief Family Camp out at Camp Shawanasi in Manteno. So this is a really great opportunity for families to come together and enjoy camp-like activities. So you're really receiving grief support, but kind of don't know you're receiving grief support because there's a lot of fun things mixed in there. There are a lot of crafts and reflection and things like that. And it's, again, kind of a separate situation where the parents are together and then the children are together and then they all come together to complete activities together. but they're also learning separate coping skills by themselves with a group facilitator as well. And then we also offer on-site counseling. So in certain situations, especially the workplace, we have had situations where there has been an accident or something where a counselor is needed at a school, perhaps, or even a workplace. There was a sudden death and the staff is really grieving. We provide that service as well. Again, completely free of charge. We will come on site to the location that you're requesting and set up an area to allow for the staff members, the students, whoever it may be, to come in and speak one-on-one with a grief counselor, and we can go on and set up additional services after that once that crisis is kind of managed. And then finally, we do educational seminars. So things like this, where we're presenting just on the services that we offer, or we do things like our Navigating Grief, which is just kind of a non-interactive session to where you can hear about the things that you potentially might be doing at a grief support group, or just learn a little bit more about grief itself. Letting go of guilt is another really popular one for that, because it's teaching you all of kind of the process that you're going to go through with grief. It's individual for everyone, but there are a lot of things and feelings that are the same when it comes to someone who's grieving. So now I kind of want to take a little virtual tour of our grief center and kind of go through all of the things that are offered from the time you walk in the door to the time you walk out to our beautiful healing garden outside. So we start off with our welcome center. So your journey really begins here. As you enter the grief center, you'll be welcomed by one of our volunteer docents, a refreshment center, interactive stations of grief support, and our Tree of Life memorial resides there. So if you see in the background behind the desk, that is our Tree of Life memorial that features leaves of anyone in the community that would like to purchase one for their loved one. And they are displayed there, and we have we have bereavement events yearly to kind of allow the donors to come in and see their leaf displayed on the tree. Then we have our fireside room. This room is a perfect place for people who are processing similar experiences in order to have a strong support system through group conversations and counseling. It has a faux fireplace, and it also has a viewing screen to use for grief education, and group session seating is included. So one of the things that we really wanted to make fluid throughout the entire building is we wanted it to be somewhere where people felt comfortable to go. It didn't feel like a stuffy, sterile environment. We wanted it to feel like home because we wanted people to have that place to come and feel comfortable in their grief. So you'll see those kind of things all the way throughout. The next room is our Comfort Cafe. So we envision this being a place where people can come and just have a cup of coffee, sit and reflect, sit and have a cup of coffee with a counselor, whatever it may be. We wanted it to be welcoming and inviting, a place for people to connect. There are those cafe tables, again, a faux fireplace, and there's a viewing screen also in there to use for grief education. The kitchen is probably one of my favorite rooms. It really feels like a home kitchen. Food is often seen as a symbol of comfort and family. So we want this space to be utilized for meetings over coffee and hosting cooking groups and accommodating the needs of community events. So one of the really cool stories that kind of came out of our research into looking at what would be beneficial to have in our community grief center, we attended a cooking through grief class up in Chicago. And the story that they told was of a woman, a strong Italian background. Cooking was her life. Every Sunday they did huge family dinners where they would invite everyone to come. And unfortunately, her husband passed away during one of those dinners. So it was very, very tragic for her, and she could not bring herself to get back in that kitchen. So whether it's a situation like that, or it's a widower who really never did the cooking himself, or a widow who doesn't really know how to just cook for one, food and family kind of go hand in hand. So we wanted this to be a place where we could host those groups and host those sessions for people to come into the kitchen and really get some good grief support out of it, but also learning some of those other tools also that they need in their life. The gathering room is also a really great room with a lot of different functions. So this will be used for community events, continuing education for our Uplifted Care staff, entertaining large groups, speakers, and more. So we have a lot of technology in this room. We have 2 big screens and all of the audio visual needs that we could use. So this room came in especially handy during the pandemic. And again, I'm throwing Phil in there, but we host a lot of bereavement events throughout the year, one of which being our Candlelight Memorial Service. And obviously we were not able to meet last November. So we brought in Phil and the technology for live streaming, and we were able to bring the candlelight to the living rooms of our clients and families. And it really actually worked out really well. And I think moving forward, we'll always, even if we are able to have large gatherings again, keep that virtual model as an option also, because we were able to connect families in Nevada, in Ohio, that previously wouldn't have been able to attend to honor their loved one, but were able to attend since we held it virtually. The next room is the journey room. So this one is kind of a smaller, intimate version of the fireside room. So grief is your journey that's best handled with that compassionate support to help navigate the emotions. This room is large enough for family counseling, but it's really utilized a lot for that individual. And again, that homey atmosphere to allow you to feel comfortable and able to share with your counselor. The tranquility room is really cool because we've put that together to kind of be something that can be used with a counselor or without. So it has a large mural on the wall. There are some water features and things like that. So people, if they're not ready to talk to a counselor and they're just needing a place for some quiet meditation, we envision this room being somewhere where they can go and just have that quiet reflection. Emotions in motion. So this room is really cool and allows for a lot of different things. So as I said, nobody grieves the same. So this room allows for those emotions to be expressed in really kind of non-traditional ways. Music allows for the emotional expression, and then also yoga, meditation, things like that. This room has plenty of room to move around and be able to do those kind of non-conventional methods of healing. The hangout. This is also one of my favorite rooms. So we wanted something that would appeal to teenagers and be a place for them to come, again, feel like they're comfortable and able to relax with their peers, and not a stuffy, sterile, medical type environment. One of the funny stories behind this, as you can see, we have a lot of signs on the wall. Our executive director actually sent out an email to us saying, if you have any of these in your garage, this might be kind of your restitution to use it for good in a community grief center. So that might get you off the hook if you're keeping some stolen merchandise. So we were able to legally acquire all of those signs and put them up, and it just creates a really fun environment for teens to come hang out. And then finally, the workshop. So this is probably one of my favorite rooms also. I know I've said that about all of them, but I really do love them all. So this room has started out very white and sterile. So the walls are white, the floors are white, everything is kind of white and sterile right now. But we're using this room for art and expression. So there are tons of toys in there. As you can see, the little puppet area. What we envision for this is for the walls to be covered with colorful art. As you saw in the grief painting, there's a lot of different ways for expression. So we would love the end result of this room to be transformed from those white walls to beautiful pictures of children, adults, anyone sharing kind of their story through grief. And then finally, our healing garden. So our healing garden is a place that is right outside the grief center, and it's so multi-purposed. So you start on a walking path that's very rough, and the entrance to the garden is very rough. And as you travel through the garden, it's supposed to be a very sensory-rich experience. So you can sit in quiet reflection, you can take in the smells of the flowers and the greenery, and then also walk along a labyrinth and water features and things like that. There's also a lot of areas in the garden where you can memorialize your loved one. We had a walkway. We have a walkway at our office location in Bourbonnais where people are able to purchase bricks in memory of their loved one. So we've moved that also over to our grief center in our healing garden, and there's the opportunity for people to purchase bricks and memorial stones for their loved ones. And on the other side of that, we have a wall that is dedicated to our veterans. And it can be anyone in the community that's a veteran. They don't necessarily have to have been on service or anything of the sort. If anyone would like to honor a veteran on that wall, they're able to by purchasing a plaque that goes on there. So to kind of tie all of this in, for the chamber and for businesses and others in the community that are maybe not sure of how this fits, I wanted to share some stats about grief, specifically in the workplace. So according to the American Hospice Foundation, 8 million people will experience grief due to a loss this year, with half of them grieving that loss in the workplace. So grief really creates those complex emotional issues that can interfere with the work environment. Colleagues and managers may want to help the grieving employee, but perhaps they just don't know how. So the thought that the work must still get done, but wanting to make sure that the grieving employee's needs are met can really create a lot of anxiety in the workplace. We can help with that. We really want to be that additional resource for individuals and organizations who have employees experiencing grief. Our services kind of offer that additional help that would supplement a traditional EAP program for employees. And then we also offer support to human resources, to managers, to fellow coworkers who are maybe trying to help an employee who is struggling with grief. I really hate this phrase because I feel like it kind of limits us, but I love that it makes what we do so important. So grief is all we do. We don't want that to limit us, but rather define us for the valuable services that we offer. Our overall goal in this is to help the community cope with their complex grief emotions while coordinating with other area counselors to help bring comfort and peace to those who are struggling. If we are in an individual counseling session with someone and we see that their needs go beyond grief, we work with the counselors in the area, say it's an underlying trauma or something of that sort. We work with other counselors in the area to help find them peace for that trauma, and we still handle the grief portion of it. So as I said, I really hate limiting us to that, but it's such a specialized thing to deal in grief support. We've made it our niche, and we really want to be able to provide that valuable service for the community. So how can you learn more? How can you start services? How can you any of this? All you have to do is call us. Again, that misconception that we don't provide care to anyone whose loved one was not on service, I probably said it 300 times and I could say it 300 more. No matter if your loved one was on service or not, we will help in any kind of grief situation. So call us. Our office location, 815-939-4141. You'll then be directed to our bereavement intake coordinator. She can help answer any questions you may have, figure out the next steps, find out what specific thing suits your needs, and she can give you all of that information. So what can you guys do to help? So this whole webinar series is kind of a networking opportunity for area professionals to get together and kind of share our story of what we do and learn about the other businesses in the community. So one of the things that you guys can do to help is share your knowledge. Share your knowledge with people. I mean, if you're passing someone that says, oh, I'm just lost my significant other, you know, now you kind of have a little bit of information about what we do and what we're able to help with. Schedule a tour. You can schedule a tour of the Community Grief Center anytime. You can give us a call at our office. They will connect you with someone. We can meet you over there. We can help walk you through, take a tour of our gardens, anything. Remind people again that this resource is available completely free of charge to anyone in the community and beyond. If you are having an event at your organization, or you're having, you know, anything, any kind of event or speaking engagement or something like that, invite us to present. If you're part of a church group, if you're part of a Rotary Club or a Kiwanis Club or something like that, invite us to come be your speaker. We would be happy to come and share this information with your group. And then you can ask us about our partnership opportunities. We have a lot of different things that we have available. I spoke a little bit about our Tree of Life or our Memorial Garden, but we also have opportunities for businesses to get involved also, whether it's a room sponsorship or you want to help sponsor an event, or you'd like to host your event at our facility and allow us to do this presentation for your group. There's lots of different things, and nothing is set in stone. There's no specific box that it all fits in. If you have an idea, reach out to us and let us know how we can help work with you. So that was a whole lot of information packed into a pretty short amount of time. We shared a lot about all of the things that we do and all of the different things that we have to offer. I guess I'm going to turn it over to you guys now. I'm hoping it's not crickets. If anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute and just shout those out. I can hear you. Anything coming in on the chat box?
Not sure. Can you hear me, Katie?
Yes.
Oh, hi. I just found this very informative, as I did not understand much at all about what uplifted care was. So that is certainly something, like you say, it's all about awareness. And so many of us just simply did not know.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And that's, I mean, this was just a presentation on the grief support services. We could do an individual presentation on all of the different things that we have to offer. So if, again, the goal of this was to share the grief support services, but if you listening kind of have something else, if you're part of that church group or part of, you know, another non-for-profit or another group or something, and you have questions about hospice, you have questions, what the heck is palliative care? How do I volunteer? What's our veterans program? If you have questions about anything, we are happy to always come out and talk to anybody about the services that we provide. I say it all the time, but hospice care is riddled with so many misconceptions, and I'm guilty of it myself. I have been in healthcare since I was 16 years old, and when I came to the organization in 2016, I was like, oh, I mean, I've been in healthcare forever. Of course I know about hospice. And starting out, I really didn't know anything about hospice, and I've learned so much about everything since 2016, and it's one of those things where you just want to constantly scream it from the rooftops because so many people do not know the valuable services that we provide when they need it the most. Okay. Any other questions, comments, anything? All right, so we will go ahead and wrap up, but we are continuing this webinar series. We're really excited about it. We really want to get our other chamber members out here presenting. It's not that bad. I mean, it's not my favorite thing to do, but it's not that bad to sit here and be videoed. Phil has a very beautiful setup. He's uber professional and can get everything done to help you get your message out about your business, the services you provide. So if you have something new, if you have something exciting, if you want to do a tour of your facility, if you want to showcase a new product that you're offering or anything like that, reach out to us at iroquoiscountyczamber@gmail.com. You can set up to be the headline presenter on the webinar. You can check out our sponsorship opportunities. You can maybe connect with Phil on how to, get the word out about your business on video and things like that. So please reach out to us. We're really excited to continue to build relationships with everybody in Iroquois County and help our businesses continue to grow. So thank you guys so much for joining us. We look forward to working with you. If you have any questions about the Community Grief Center or the services that Uplifted Care provides, please give us a call, 815-939-4141. We can schedule a time to chat, or you can also email the chamber email address and you can get a hold of me that way too. I hope everybody has a great rest of your week, and we will see you guys in a month.